You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode number 209.4, 5 questions that need answers with Will Retherford. This week, Will is going to answer questions about college basketball, Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, and a question about IU basketball.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Will is back with me on the Central Indiana Sports Report from Stage 22. Today, Will is going to answer questions about a lot of our usual topics, but we're also going to have some unique topics this week as well. Are you ready to go, Will?
I'm pumped. I'm excited. There's a lot that has happened in sports in general over the last, since we talked. So I think that I'm excited for the questions today. I think that you're going to bring some heat.
I'm going to bring some heat. Question number 1. We are on the eve of, it's actually going to be, let me check my schedule, about an hour after we release this podcast. Mm-hmm. The NCAA Tournament will be have begun in earnest, not this first 4 thing.
Yeah,
and it begins with Louisville and Creighton at 12:15, and then Purdue and High Point at 12:40. So we get to get the disappointment of being a Purdue fan out of the way.
Yeah,
early.
Well, I get the excitement of being a Purdue fan, or a Purdue hater, I should say, lack thereof fan. But yes, I'm excited. I think that, regardless of what people say, I don't think this is the best tournament ever. I think there's a lot of very mid-tier teams in this tournament. I think that the top 8 are tier above everyone else, and I think
I'm not so sure.
It
could be.
I think you could see
the athleticism of some of those teams.
I think you could see a situation where all 4 1 seeds make the Final Four and are not challenged much to get there. I think
you could see a situation where none of the number 1 seeds. I think there is so much unpredictability with this. It's going to be matchups. I think you're going to see a lot of, especially the first weekend, double-digit seeds win games. Second weekend, maybe not as much, but I think it's going to be crazy. We'll see.
I would be excited to hear what matchups you specifically think have higher seed matchups, because when I filled out my bracket, I did not see too many where I thought the higher seed really, really had a chance.
You'll find out later today.
Okay.
All right, so what 5 teams in your mind do you think are the most likely to hoist the trophy at the end of the tournament?
I'm going to start with 5. I think 5 is Alabama. I think Nate Oates is a really good coach. I think they've had success in the past in the tournament. It's obviously not Final Four, but I mean they're talking about a perennial Sweet 16, Elite 8 team for the last 3 or 4 years. They are really athletic, and they get out and run. And I think that they're a really tough matchup, especially for, they're going to have to play the winner of St. Mary's, Vanderbilt. I don't think that either one of those teams are good matchups, particularly for them. Especially St. Mary's is not prepared for SEC basketball the way that it's been played this year.
I don't know if the SEC is prepared for St. Mary's basketball.
They
are really good.
They're really... Well, I won't say what I want to say, but they're really not athletic enough to play with Alabama. I feel very strongly about that.
Okay.
And I just think
said it.
I think that their path is fairly straightforward. I don't see Wisconsin or BYU as real issues for them to get to the Elite 8.
Awfully talented.
And they're just not athletic. I mean, they can be really talented. I just don't think they're athletic enough to play with them.
Let me ask you a question. Their injury concerns, how did that drop them from your top 5, or are you saying I'm going to assume they're going to be healthy?
I'm going to assume they're going to be healthy. I mean, I guess you could put an asterisk there. Are they going to be at 100%? I feel like if they're not, they're probably not in that top 5, because I do think that losses in positions like they have right now are maybe mitigating their chance. And I guess you're gonna have to ask yourself, are they at 100% where are they as far as even, are they playing, but are they ready to go? I think that, if this is the kind of situation, especially in the tournament, where if you can go, you're going. You're taping up. You're going to have to play through the pain. But I think that they're 5, assuming they're at 100%.
And the news looks like he will play.
Yeah, and that's why I think that he's got.
And Nate Oates actually says he thinks he'll be 100%.
Well, and I think,
and he said he, quote, dodged one. So
then I think that you have to assume that they're a real contender. They might be. I don't know if they're my favorite 2 seed. They might be. The only other 2 seed to me, and who I'm going to put at 4, just because I really love the coach, is Michigan State, Tom Izzo. I think that they do have some issues shooting the 3 ball, but they play really good defense. They're really physical, and they won close games in the Big Ten the whole year. I just think that Izzo is always going to elevate a team further, probably around further than they should go.
Do they have the go-to guy it takes to win in March, that a guy who can take over a game down the stretch?
I'm not sure. They've kind of been a by committee team the entire year.
That's my concern.
And I would say that maybe the absence of the go-to player is what ends up preventing them from going to the Final Four. However, I think that as great as Bruce Pearl is as a coach, I think if Tom Izzo is faced with Auburn, I'm always going to pick. I'm never going to bet against Michigan State.
You talk about too athletic for one team. Auburn would run Michigan State up.
Yeah, but I think that the game plan, as far as what Izzo, I think he would be. If there's a coach that I think in this tournament could neutralize the athleticism, it would be him. I love him. I'm never betting against him in March.
Number 3.
Number 3. I really think that Duke, if flags 100%, is a real problem. They've beaten up pretty much every team in this tournament. They obviously have 4 losses. However, I don't see that as a distraction coming in. I think that Flag's ankle injury is concerning, especially if he's not going to be at 100%. And I would go as far to say I don't think he'll play on Friday. I think that they will sit him. I don't see any reason to trot him out against a 16 seed that you're going to beat with the talent you have. So I would say keep him off his ankle and get him ready to play on Sunday afternoon. But I think that, Duke's been, they were the number 1 seed or number 1 team in the country for 8 weeks before Auburn took it back over come tournament time. So I'm going to say Duke is my 3.
And number 2?
Number 2 is Auburn. I think that they're uber athletic. They might be the most athletic team I've seen in my 21 years of life in watching college basketball. Their ability to push and transition, play good defense, shoot the 3 well. They're really just, and they have a go-to guy. Broom he's a go-to guy. When they need a bucket, they're going to get it from him. So exactly. I think that he can provide that level of, safety net, where if the team's struggling a little bit, hey, get the ball to him and let him try to go to work and let him go do what he needs to do. He can take over games. He's very similar to kind of how I think we maybe saw Zion play a little bit, although Duke did not win the national championship. When they wanted to get Zion the ball and try to take over a game and elevate themselves further, they went to him, and that post presence is big. I think that Auburn's going to out-rebound a lot of teams. To me, the only team that I think that they really even should be remotely concerned about is Michigan State in the Elite Eight. I really think that they're going to – I don't want to say cruise because that doesn't really happen in March Madness, but I think they can play their B game and still get to the Elite Eight.
And before we get to your number 1, would you like or dislike an Auburn-Alabama national championship?
I think it'd be electric, obviously, with how big of a rivalry that is. I do think that as fans.
By the way, IU Purdue is nothing compared to Auburn Alabama.
In basketball, I think that IU and Purdue.
General.
I think basketball, IU and Purdue's got to beat, but everything else, yeah, I would say that Auburn and Alabama's. I don't know if it's the best rivalry, but it's
might be the most fierce one.
Yeah, I mean, there's real hatred. There's real hatred between those two programs, which is a shame because they have excellent coaches. I mean, the SEC's become a basketball conference. Whether the Big Ten would like to admit it or not, like the SEC is absolutely a basketball conference now, and it's up to the Big Ten to match that.
This passion still isn't there for college basketball like it is for college.
Know. I think it's
for college football.
I think it's turning. I think they're getting really good.
No, the product is good, but the passion is nowhere. It's not even close.
Well, the Big Ten can't get out of their own way with teams getting, keeping teams good. I don't. That's a whole nother issue in itself. But to me, I think we need as fans to be really content with seeing probably an all SEC national championship. I think that possibility is quite real.
So who's number one?
Number one's Florida. They were way too good in the SEC tournament, way too dominant for it to be anyone else but them. They have a go-to guard with Walter Clayton Jr. He's averaging 17 and a half a game, and I think that is what elevates teams so much in March is having that, and he's a senior guard, having just that veteran experience of, hey, we've been here before, although Florida in recent time in memory has not been uber successful. They still are a historically good program, and I would expect them to be prepared to play. I mean, they played so well in the SEC tournament. I don't know how you can look at me and not say, hey, they're clearly prepared to play in March. They're going to play easier competition up until maybe the Sweet 16 as compared to what they played in the SEC tournament. So I just think that they honestly, similar to Auburn, I think they can kind of coast to the Elite Eight too and not really go through much stress.
Well, we had a lot of the same teams on our list, but not all of them, because my number one team is you didn't even mention. So that would be the Houston Cougars.
Well, I think that defensively they're really good. I'm a little worried.
They're consistent. They're tough. They're well coached. Say what you want about Kelvin Sampson. Yeah, and I think Florida's number two.
I feel like Houston, they're a foul trouble team. They're if the game's getting called tight, I really don't like Houston in a game because I think that they're really physical. Similar to kind of how Michigan State is. I think Michigan State kind of falls in that category too. But I guess having Houston up there is not wrong. It's just a difference of which number one seed we think has the best chance.
And I think St. John's is number 3.
Okay.
I think Duke is probably number 4.
Oh, I don't know.
If I didn't say Auburn, then Auburn is number 4 and Duke is number 5.
Okay.
Yes, I did not say Auburn. Auburn 4, Duke 5.
I think my only kicker with St. John's that I'll say is that Kansas-Arkansas game, 7-10 matchup that they have to play in the second round. That's dangerous because Calipari and Bill Self having to play them in round 2.
Yep.
And
guess what? Rick Pitino is the best of the 3 when it comes to game planning.
Probably, but
although Self's awfully good too.
Probably, but St. John's, they don't shoot the 3 very well. And that can cause issues in March.
But they are extraordinarily well coached.
They are, and they're very defensively fundamental. I mean, they're a very good team. I'm not saying that. It's one of those where that's a tough second round matchup to have to go into
for sure. And I could see them losing that. Mm-hmm. But when Pitino has the right pieces, I like him in March.
Okay, I think he's in that same tier that I believe Izzo's into. I think when they have it all right, they might be the 2 best coaches in the country. I would go as far to say that they might just be. I'm not sure they're the best coaches at getting. I think that Matt Painter has always done more with less than probably anyone else in the country, but that's for neither here nor there, quite honestly. IU people won't like to hear that, but he is. He's a really good ball coach.
Yes, he is. And since he started, quote-unquote, recruiting Purdue guys, it's gotten even better.
It has. I mean, he has, and they've got veteran experience with Smith.
Yeah, and if things fell right, they could make a long run.
Oh, I don't think that there's no reason they can't. I don't think that they're as good as they were last year, but
No, but their problem is certain matchups they just do not do well with. And I have no idea, by the way, how they got a 4 seed and Michigan was a 5 when Michigan just beat Purdue by 18 points.
Yeah,
Michigan was a higher seed in the Big Ten. I understand Purdue had a little better pre-Big Ten, and they played a lot of good teams and they beat a lot of good. They beat Alabama and but
I don't know. I also didn't have a problem with North Carolina getting in, so I don't see they clearly thought Purdue was a better team than Michigan is, and I would say that they probably are. If they're on a neutral site, I know that they just lost to Michigan, but I would say that Purdue's winning, more times than not against Michigan.
I'm not sure about that. Next year, though, Purdue's expected to have everybody back.
Well, you hope so. I mean,
including Daniel Jacobson, who was injured early in the season.
That's true.
Who is awfully good, and if his comeback goes as planned, that's the best team in the country next year. So this year's just kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Major League Baseball has begun.
No.
You're right, no. But
that's also probably not a conversation many people want to hear my thoughts on, but
so we're not quite ready for the World Series pick since we're not really quite on the eve of baseball. So let me ask you this question.
Okay.
What are 3 storylines that we should look for in the first 3 weeks of the regular season?
I'm going to say my 3 storylines, one of which I really want to talk about is how does Corbin Carroll rebound from, I guess, what you could consider a sophomore kind of slump a little bit. He was really bad the first half of the year, had a pretty good second half of the year, but how does he rebound from Rookie of the Year? And quite frankly, I mean, his rookie year, we're talking about hey, this guy might be top 5 player in the league already. I would say that his resurgence and how it goes, to me, is a huge difference on how good Arizona can be. That's a team that they have built around. That is a team with talent. Burns are going to have a very good pitching staff. But I think that Corbin Carroll is, to me, probably the difference maker in them going from a really good team to an elite team.
That's a good one. Number 2?
Number 2, I think in the same regard as Corbin Carroll, Bo Bichette for the Blue Jays, I think that that's a team that is kind of hopes to elevate themselves probably to wild card contention. I'm not sure anyone thinks that the Yankees or Orioles aren't going to win that division, but Bo Bichette, that was the first year of his career that he batted under 290. That's a pretty crazy stat when you really sit and think about modern MLB. But his first year under 290 hitting and the first year that he hadn't led the AL in hits in 2 years. So it's definitely a scenario where I think that that's a storyline to watch. He's had a really good spring, and seeing how he rebounds, I think that's a team that if you can get Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero playing at the same level and getting big offensive production from the top of that lineup, I mean, you're hoping that George Springer can be solid. Start to get to that 35-year-old age with baseball players. I'm not saying it can't be done, but there are some metrics that kind of point towards maybe a bit of a downfall beginning trend. I think that's a team that has a better pitching staff than people are going to give them credit for. But I think you also need to see, Alejandro Kirk, you kind of want to see him get better as far as his just all-around play. I think that he plays really well in moments. There's times where the bat's lacking a little bit. I think he frames the ball really well behind the plate, so that's obviously important for the pitching staff. Most baseball people don't care about, the pitch framing, but he can be a really versatile, kind of above-average offensive catcher for that team. I think that Bo Bichette is the player to watch for the American League if we're going to give Carroll that, because I think that if he can elevate himself back to where he was prior to last year, you're talking about a team that could win 90 games. My third, and this could be, I guess, me and you care about this, which NL Central team is going to come out and play well. I don't know if I've got a ton of faith in any of them coming out and playing well, but the division could be won in the first month just by one team coming out and playing really well for the first month and kind of, getting good mojo back, good voodoo, I guess, coming out of the gate.
Reds.
Yeah, it's one of those where the Cubs obviously went to Japan, and I don't give any credit. I don't give nothing.
Did they fly the L?
They did, 2 of them actually.
They flew the L twice.
Unfortunately, yeah. And I can't say that they're probably too happy with that trip over there, but I'm not giving any credit. The fact that MLB is having the first games of the year in Japan at 6 a.m. is a travesty.
On March 19th.
It's absolutely ridiculous. When they're going to come back and play spring training games again after they already went and played why? It's baffling, it's dumbfounding, and the MLB never fails. I get that Japan, their ratings as far as the TV ratings are up there with the United States as far as views for the World Series. Yeah. Give them a game in June. Give them 2 games in June, July. Just why you took the Cardinals and the Cubs over to to London. You gave them an off day before and an off day after, and then you moved on with the world like it was supposed to be. Do that with Japan. The fact that 2 MLB games that matter could be huge for potential standings are getting played on March 19th in Tokyo.
Don't even have your full roster set.
Yeah. It's just completely dumbfounding to me, and the MLB never fails to just mess up all the time. This is just the wrong move. Give Japan a game. I got no problem with giving Japan a game. They love baseball. It's a rabid fan base. Like, I'm well aware of that, but they shouldn't be getting the first 2 games of the year. Like opening day should be played on opening day in Cincinnati. And that should be the first game of the year. And they've done away with that. And it's not even like you didn't even get an American audience. Nobody except Dodgers and Cubs fans. And for the Dodgers, that game was at 3:10 local time in the morning. So they're definitely not watching that. Cubs 5:10 local time. They're probably not watching that. It was dumb. Really dumb.
The frenzy of free agency is over. Of course, rosters aren't set. There's going to be a lot of releasing, a lot of signing. There's still going to be a lot of that left before we start talking about who has the best rosters before the draft. But what 3 teams have improved themselves the most since last Monday?
Since last Monday, I would say that I don't like to say next month. I think the Commanders have probably improved themselves the most over the course.
5 push-ups.
The Washington football team have improved themselves the most over the course of the entire offseason. I don't know if
let's say over the offseason.
Over the offseason, I would say that Washington definitely improved the most as far as taking a step forward and a leap of faith that their quarterback is going to continue to be the kind of quarterback he is, and I see no reason that he's not. I would argue that I do think that there is something to be said with quarterbacks having a difficult second year, just because the more tape gets out, you start playing your division opponents for the 3rd and 4th time, and they start to key in on what you're doing, and those games get tougher. It's really fun to take teams by surprise.
The sophomore slump is a real thing.
It's way easier to be the hunter than the hunted, and I think that Washington's gonna feel that a little bit. I also don't think that, I don't think Debo makes them much better, because I don't think Debo can stay on the field. So
that might be true, but he is an awfully good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a good player for the 8 games he plays, and then he's got a hammy and an ankle and a calf strain and this, that, and the other. I like availability. I like a guy on the field all the time. I would much rather have a B tier guy that's going to play 17 games versus an A-tier guy that plays 12. I'll put it that way. After that, I think that there's a lot of jumbling. I think there's a lot of teams that got better. I don't know if there's a lot of teams that I'd say got that much better than the rest.
I think the Broncos with Dre Greenlaw.
I agree. I think the Broncos with Greenlaw and now getting Evan Ingram, who is going to be a big deal. A really good deal. He was really good in Jacksonville. I mean, he had 108 receptions, maybe even more than that. Not this year, but the year before.
That's
he's also kind of an injury risk, but he can definitely elevate Bo Nix to that other level. That's a team that we've talked about him some, and I haven't heard a ton of people talking about the Broncos. Maybe it's just me, but I think they're going to be pretty good next year, and I think they have a chance to win the division. I think right now, if you were to tell me who's winning the division next year, I might say the Broncos.
I disagree, but I can see it.
I think that I guess we just said that the same thing with Jaden Daniels versus Bo Nix. The one thing I will say about Bo Nix versus Daniels, he continued to stack better weeks on top of each other each week. Like, he was so much better in week 17 than he was in week 1. He was.
How were they in the playoffs?
They ran into a buzzsaw is what they ran
And
into.
Daniels?
I think Daniels was really good in the playoffs.
Exactly.
I think he was
that's
really,
the
really
lasting
good.
memory from that
No,
season.
it was. I'm not speaking any ill towards Daniels. I do think that.
I think the Bills showed that Nix has limitations.
Well, I think their offensive line showed he had some limitations, and their pass catchers showed that he had some limitations. I watched that game and did not feel any way towards the slightest of Bo Nix not being a really good quarterback. So maybe that's just a difference of opinion.
I think it is.
I think they overachieved probably to get there. I don't think they probably belonged.
I think he's Kirk Cousins at best for his career.
I think he's better than that. I think he's better than that. I just think that the way he plays, he became a really poised quarterback later in the year. He had the Justin Fields like happy feet the first 5-6 weeks, and then all of a sudden it just clicked, and he just was good, and it was just you just trusted him. I think that
you might be right.
Why can he not be Drew Brees? I mean, I would say at this point in his career,
he's not that talented.
I don't know that he's not. I don't know that. I think he.
You can say that about 100 quarterbacks, though. Why can't they be Drew Brees?
I think that I don't think that
But they aren't.
I don't think Sean Payton's going to let Bo Nix just be Kirk Cousins.
All right.
So I guess Broncos too. I guess if we're gonna continue, the Bears got a lot better. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I think that them shoring up their offensive line, they got a lot better.
Did they?
Their offensive line is going to be a lot better than it was.
A lot better?
I do. I think it is going to be a lot better.
All right.
He's definitely not going to be on his back 60 times. I can promise you that. They brought in some key pieces that I think are going to help solidify. I think now it's kind of, I don't want to say it's up to him, because I do think that there is so much more development. I don't expect
Their
him
weapons are average at best.
I agree. I don't think that they have great weapons either. I think you hope that Rome Odunze is really good. I think that he showed signs, but I think that Keenan Allen is a mid-tier receiver at best anymore. Yeah. I don't think DJ Moore. I've never thought that DJ Moore is.
I think DJ Moore's really good. He's just not great. I think he's a fine receiver.
He's a Michael Pittman tier. He's in that good, really solid.
Probably a
team.
tier below Pittman, but there's still a lot of tiers below that.
Yeah,
so.
I guess
he is a fine receiver.
Yeah,
he'd get a guy. If he showed up on the Colts tomorrow, I'd be happy to have him.
Oh, well, you know what? I don't know if I would be. I don't think that he makes that team much better. Actually, I don't think that he's that big of a difference.
I don't think
maker.
there's an NFL GM who wouldn't. They just like, hey, you want this guy? Wouldn't say, oh yeah, I would like that guy.
Maybe, but does he elevate you that much more than Pierce did?
No,
he doesn't.
Not too much more. No.
So I do think the Bears got a lot better. I just think that it's up to. They got better in the way that Ben Johnson wanted to get better. I think it was a coach kind of setting, hey, this is the standard and this is what I want to be. And I think when coaches build a team in the way they view it, and there's stability and everyone is 100% behind the decisions being made in the organization, good things can happen. I don't expect them to make the playoffs next year, but I think that they got better. I think they will improve from this year to last year.
I think the Texans got a lot better if they can fill the hole at tackle. Their other two linemen they signed are very good, especially with the run. I like Christian Kirk. Like you said, if he stays healthy. I like a lot of the things they did on defense. They filled a lot of holes that they had last year. I think they're going to be pretty good.
I would say that I would have said that they would have been the teams that I think got worse I think that them trading Tunsil was a big mistake. They
didn't want to have to pay him, and I understand why. I understand why you don't want to pay a tackle top dollar. I get it, but they need to fill that hole if they can. They're going to have a pretty good offensive line, and if they're healthy at receiver, they got 3 really good receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that they are. The problem is that nothing's been proven that they can stay healthy at receiver.
I get it.
So I mean, I think that Nico Collins at this point, I don't think it's a trend. I think it's a lifestyle. I think his lifestyle is that he's going to be on the IR.
He's been healthier than Tank Dell
for 5. Well, Tank Dell's had a couple pretty freak injuries as far as a tibial fracture and then knee injury. Yes, I would not say that. He's not. It's not like he's been soft tissue. I'm going to be. Yeah. But as far as Kirk and Collins, I don't have any faith that either one of those guys are playing 17 games next year. I would put the over-under on Collins at 12, and I would probably put the over-under for Kirk also probably about 12. And
if they're healthy,
I also think that
that's a good team.
I also think that Mixon, I think you're going to start.
He's
possible. Reaching that age where
he didn't base really any good. Of this on Mixon.
No, but I do think that last year the pass game was bad and the run game was a lot better, and the year before the run game was awful and the pass game was better. So I don't know. You hope that they can find where it's simpatico and the pass game's good and the run game's good. But I still think Stroud's a good quarterback. I don't. He had a rough year last year, but I don't necessarily know if the rough year was completely on him as far as the offensive line. I also think that firing Bobby Slowick was just an absolute boneheaded decision. So that I also think that I will take that into consideration for them getting worse as Bobby Slowick not being the O coordinator, because now you're bringing in another guy, and you hope that Stroud can be the guy that he wants him to be. And I think that O coordinator changes at the NFL level make a much bigger difference than we think, especially when your head coach is the defensive guy. When the decisions as far as what's happening offensively are coming from one voice, and that's the offensive coordinator. It's not a situation where it's a by committee kind of thing. It is. I mean, DeMeco Ryans is the defensive coach, and he's bringing in an offensive coordinator to, I don't want to say run, but manage the offense to the best that he can. I'm not saying Ryans doesn't have some say-so. He's the head coach. Of course he does as far as game management and stuff like that. But I think that's a bigger deal, and you hope that Stroud can catch on.
Real quick, what about Bosa to Buffalo?
Oh, I think if Bosa's healthy, that's a
of course, that's
huge
the question.
Move. That's a huge discount move that they got, and I don't see why they can't be. I don't see why they can't win the Super Bowl next year.
They really should. Don't. Right now, I would think they're the favorite, in Baltimore.
I'm curious to see what they do in the draft. I think I am curious to see what they do. I feel like Buffalo, I don't know if it's going to be... I mean, I feel like receiver is kind of a hole a little bit. Coleman didn't come out and play great last year. I think that he was...
It's definitely a hole.
Shakir was really good. I think that it is a hole. I think that they probably need to get someone else, but I don't...
They need a 1.
I agree. Well, I don't know, though, because when Allen was better without a 1 than with a 1.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, are you trying to tell me they have a 1?
No, I'm not saying Shakir's
all right, that's
a 1,
what I thought you were trying to say.
I think Allen plays better when he's not forcing the ball to a 1. I think when he was allowed to just take what the defense gave him.
Peyton Manning never forced the ball to Marvin Harrison.
Well, that's because Marvin Harrison wasn't a diva and Stephon Diggs was.
I know, but I'm saying that if you can get a number 1 and then you get...
If you can get a number 1 who's not a diva...
Yeah, you shift that to number 2.
Then good.
They could change everything for them.
Good. I mean, that's awesome. There's not a 1. They need a Michael Pittman. Honestly, they need a Michael Pittman. They need a 1 or a 1B that's not going to cause any problems.
We've talked about the NFL way for too long.
No, we haven't. It's always fine talking about the NFL.
NBA, in the history of the Pacers, have there ever been 2 such dramatic wins in 1 week?
No, not even close. This has been absolutely crazy. The fact that
2 of the best wins in regular season wins in franchise history back to back.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Not back to back,
and the
days.
Way they did it last night was
Spectacular.
Was it 2 nights ago?
It was 2 nights.
It was just, nobody played. Nobody.
Well, Nimhard played.
Yeah.
Until he got thrown out.
Until he got
again.
ejected.
And
Ben Matherin got
played
fouled out.
Until he fouled out.
And then you're literally playing that.
Your go-to guy's Obi Toppin.
That game showed right there why the Pacers can still win.
But you don't win
finals.
Championships with depth.
No, but they help. They help when you're able to trot out a bunch of depth that can help you when entire guys out. Absolutely.
It really helped last year, that's for sure.
It absolutely did. Their depth is not the reason that they lost.
When Milwaukee and the Knicks faltered, they
absolutely.
And the addition of Thomas Bryant has
huge.
been
It's
godsend.
It's been a game changer. He's been really, really good. I wasn't
so
sure
professional. No, neither was I.
I wasn't sure that move was really going to be enough to send him over the edge, and I don't know that it is, but it's a really good move. Here's one thing that I find concerning. Pascal Siakam should not be leading this team in rebounds.
Good point.
Should not be.
No, he should not.
I'm really on the it's time for Miles Turner to go train is what I am. I think you know what he's good for? He's good for going and hucking a bunch of threes up. He's got no business.
He definitely
shooting.
does not fit with this offense.
I'm really starting to I'm tired of watching Miles Turner, to be honest. And if Miles, you hear this, you've been really good to Indy.
He's great, dude.
And you are an excellent,
no better guy than that.
human being. And if you were, I would love to be a fan of you, and I am still a fan of you. But it is time for them to bring in a 5 that's not going. Your 5 should never lead your team in 3 points attempted. It just cannot happen. And
no, especially if he's not bringing down 13 rebounds.
No,
a game.
he's bringing 6. He's bringing 6 rebounds down a game. I mean, that's one more than Ben Matherin, and Ben Matherin's the 2, and he's bringing in 5.
Yep.
So you got to riddle me that something's got to change, and
You're
it's not going
right.
to. And I just
as long as he's on the roster, and I hate to say it because again, love the guy. As long as he's on the roster, they're not winning.
I mean, Thomas Bryant, he averages 16 minutes a game. He's averaged 4 rebounds.
He might be better in the starting lineup.
Miles Turner plays 30 minutes, which is double what Thomas Bryant does, and only brings in 2 more rebounds. Isaiah Jackson gets more rebounds than 1 less rebound than Turner does. I don't want Tyrese down there. He needs to stay out of the paint. I don't want him even anywhere near the paint. I want him past the ball, playing good perimeter. Well, he's good at ball hawk, and I wouldn't say he's a good perimeter. He's really a pretty bad perimeter defender, but he's a good in getting in passing lanes, doing all the things you need to do.
I will say this about Turner. This is the best year he's ever had with court vision and passing.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
And it's gotten better this year, and that's really helped the offense that he moves the ball quicker. Mm-hmm. His anticipation's been a lot better, but his defense isn't good enough, and his rebounding is just it's pitiful.
It is.
We used to complain about Rick Smits being 7'4" and only averaging like 7 a game, and this is even worse. I mean,
I don't know if it is. That was pretty bad too. But,
yeah. But Smits was a way better rebounder than Miles Turner.
I mean, I've just got a problem. Hey, Miles Turner, you don't need to be shooting from 25 feet. You don't.
Those Pacers also had Dale Davis and Antonio Davis.
So yeah. I mean, I could speak ad nauseum. The fact of the matter is Tyrese is still an All NBA player. He's playing better. And
most nights.
He's just so likable.
He was so consistent last year, and he has not been consistent.
Tyrese is just exactly what the Pacers needed, and I couldn't be happier.
Love him.
I do. And I really – and I love Ben Matherin too. And I'll be honest, I'm starting to get a little tired of Rick Carlisle too. He's starting to overstay his welcome. I'm getting real tired of the mind games that he continues to play with these boys. I don't like it.
Why?
He just – he says one thing one night, and then he says another thing the other night.
They're clearly better when Neesmith's in the starting lineup and Matherin's coming off the bench.
Sure, they should be. But guess what? Neesmith doesn't score like Ben Matherin does.
No, he doesn't.
Ben Matherin is a bucket. He is a put him out there and say, Ben, go get me a bucket.
And he's great in that role.
And he needs to continue doing that.
But he can't do that with the starters.
Well, no, but then there's nights where Ben Matherin is. His minutes, he's playing 6-7 less minutes a game, and I don't like that. I want him playing. He's still super young.
Kind of depends on the matchups. No?
To me,
he's not at that point yet.
I just think that he should be playing.
The ball sticks on his hands too much to be playing with a bunch of guys who pass the ball a lot and move it and move it.
Maybe, and
and that's why he's perfect with the second team. And then you got to start making decisions because he's easily starter level talent.
Oh, I think he's above. He's a really good starter.
Yeah. Could be.
Skill.
He's inconsistently that
but
level.
he shows flashes all the time.
Yes,
they can't let him
Yes,
move. They can't let it. He's got to be a pacer. He's got to continue being a pacer.
One of the best finishers at the rim I've seen in a long time. He makes shots I can't believe go in.
He might be the team's best 3-level scorer as far as being able to get buckets in the paint, get buckets from the mid-range, and shoot the three well.
And get to the line.
Siakam has done Siakam was exactly what they need. I can't get over how great of a trade that was. I'm so glad that we don't have to watch another failed Pacers draft pick. We get to just see Pascal Siakam, and that is good enough for me.
And question number 5 is, how do you feel about Darian DeVries, IU's new basketball coach?
Oh, God. As an IU hater, I love it. I absolutely love it. That guy is not winning anything at IU. He's going to be 3 years gone, fired. I feel bad for the guy. He doesn't deserve what he's getting in Bloomington. The most obnoxious fan base in the entire country when it comes to college basketball. Consistently thinks, this is our year, and guess what? We got an NIT invitation waiting for us that we're going to decline because we are too stuck up and think we're a blue blood anymore. They're not. They're not even a white blood anymore. They're just a nothing blood.
Real fast, I want to say that we've been showering love on IU for the last couple weeks, so with the women and all that. I do not hate IU.
I can promise you that
if I could have a Final Four every year, it would be Purdue, Ball State, IU, and Indiana State. This is not my opinion, everybody. This is Will's opinion alone.
I will stand on business all the time. You've never heard one good word come out of IU basketball come from this mouth. And you've heard very few IU football good words come out of this mouth. And I'm gonna keep tooting the horn because this team,
I hope he proves you wrong.
He's not going to. He's not going to.
I think he might.
I don't think he is. What? Oh, awesome. So we hired. Has Archie Miller screaming all over again. Screaming.
I do think they blew it by not going after Chris Beard. Chris Beard would have been perfect.
All they do is blow it. All they do is it is the most inept athletic department when it comes to having a good basketball team that I've ever seen. And they flout. It's
been a while.
We've got this. We have so much NIL. We have a huge collective for our basketball team. And now all of a sudden we're going to feed that into a B-tier football program too. That's not going to get anywhere either. So we're just stuck right here in the middle of IU. Our basketball team's going to suck, and our football team's going to be good enough to get in the top 12 and bad enough to never win it. So we're just in this perfect. It's awesome. It's misery for IU fans, and I love to see it. And I think that this is an absolutely awful hire. And I would tell Darian, I would say if you hear this, Will Retherford is telling you to pack your family up and go somewhere else. Pull a Josh McDaniels on IU. Leave them. Go somewhere else because it's going to be nothing but hatred. His kids are going to have to go to school and hear this stuff in the Bloomington area, and that's sad. His son's going to come here and they're going to think he's the next coming of Christ. He won't be. He'll be just okay. The same way every white guy that goes to IU is just okay.
Steve Alford?
Awesome. I mean, that's been, 40 years? I mean, awesome. I mean, congratulations. I haven't heard anybody that's had a conversation with Steve Alford quite frankly, have anything good to say about the guy. So I'm glad that he was the good white guy at IU. But it's just, God, it's just incredible what they continue to do. They just pull out the pistol and shoot themselves in the foot.
Will, I love it every week.
I do too.
Thank you so much for doing this. And I told you at the beginning, be as brash as you're willing to be, and you don't mind. So.
I don't at all. I will stand here in the pocket. If This all speaks for itself. It's all going to get sorted out. That's the beautiful thing about sports is that the talking only matters until the ball's in play, and then it doesn't matter anymore.
And you're wrong about St. Mary's, but have a great week, and we'll see you next
Thank
week.
You too.
Can't wait. Love the NCAA tournament. Still a 9 out of 10.
I'm gonna say it's a 7.5 for me.
Only the Indy 500 does it more for me. Or if there's a great heavyweight boxing match, like for the World Championship, but it's been so long. It's been like Lennox Lewis and
Boxing sucks.
I love boxing.
Boxing is an absolute joke of a sport.
I love boxing
and organizations and everything.
Oh yeah. That's true. But I think the last great one was probably
not in my lifetime. I would imagine
it was Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield's probably the last great heavyweight fight.
I don't know when that was.
Mid-90s.
Yeah, you're talking 8 years before I was born. So
exactly. Thanks, Will.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks again to Will. As I said, I love it every week. It's so much fun talking sports with Will. And thank you for listening. If you are interested in seeing the Central Indiana Sports Report continue to grow and thrive, please share it with your friends and family. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie. And thanks everybody for listening. Always appreciate it. If you're interested in seeing us continue to grow and thrive, please share this episode with your friends and family.
Also, go Ball State women's.
Oh, yeah. Go
Yes.
Ball State
Chirp,
women.
chirp. Absolutely awesome. Second time program history. Go watch them. It's an absolute travesty that they're not closer to us because I would have gone. But
Did you see that they are 22nd in odds to win the national championship?
I didn't. But that's
200 to 1.
yeah.
I use 500 to 1.
Well, I don't know if that's.
Vegas likes the Cardinals.
I don't think they should like him that much.
I think they might win this first game, though.
If they did, Muncie would burn down.
Just the first game, like they did against Tennessee that couple years
Yeah,
ago.
well, that was like 2009. That's
That's a couple years
16
ago to
years
some
ago.
of us. That's a couple years ago to some of us.
Well, for some of us, that would be well over half of my life. So
I know. For some of us, it was not even.
that's actually 3/4 of my life.
For some of us, it's not even. Barely even registers on the.
Allie Becky for WNBA draft, though.
There
Dog.
we go. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.
Chirp, chirp.